Hello everybody, my name is Jared and today we're going to be doing a watercolour video. Now this is the second to last one in my watercolour series. If you want to check out any of the videos in that series, the playlist is attached to this video, so you should be able to have a little look. The playlist contains all of the other watercolour videos, and I will explain, if you haven't seen any of those, you should go check them out. In these videos I am drawing the main cast of my D&D themed webcomic. If you haven't read my webcomic yet, it is called I Am a Criminal. It is on Webtoon. It updates bi-weekly, and yeah, I hope you guys will enjoy it if you do check it out. I Am a Criminal is a LGBT romance and fantasy comic. It features lots of cute different races and species, and yeah, I hope you'll enjoy it. All of the characters are really fun, and hopefully you'll think the art is nice. The character I'm drawing today is Baetor. He is one of the main three of the characters. He is a tiefling, and he is a bard. Now, if you're not into D&D, a bard is essentially a magician, but with music. So they can use magic, but they also, all of their magic comes from music. That's kind of a really loose way to explain a bard. If you do want to know more about it, there is a section for bards on the D&D wiki. But yeah, that is essentially them in summary. A tiefling is sort of like a half demon. In D&D they're referred to as infernals, but tieflings most commonly are either the children of a infernal and a human, or the children of another tiefling and another species. In history, tieflings have also been people who made deals with demons, but that is not the kind of tiefling that you're dealing with in this one. Baetor is introduced quite early on in my comic. He is one of the main three characters that you follow for the majority of the comic, and he is very cute, and I really hope people will like him. I won't go too deeply into the actual comic here because I want people to read it, and hopefully you will understand the characters a lot better by reading the comic. But if you do have any questions about the characters, do drop them in the description down below. I will get to them as quickly as I can in another video, since there is going to be one more video in this series. Now for this piece, as the other ones did, I did a sketch. Unlike the other ones, I didn't actually do a thumbnail. The reason for this is actually a redraw. I have done this watercolour portrait before. I have done Baetor's before, but it was before I changed a great deal of his character design, particularly his colour scheme. And as you know, with watercolour pictures, you cannot actually change things like completely changing the character's skin colour. So yeah, I had to completely redo this one, but it meant that I already knew sort of how it would go. I knew what was going where, how his pose was, and things like that. So it wasn't too difficult, and I didn't have to do the thumbnail sketch. Again, since I already kind of knew what the colour scheme was going to be from the previous sketch, I didn't have to do a colour thumb either, so all I did was go straight in with the sketch work. The sketch was a little bit back and forth, but in kind of a little while I figured out what I wanted to do with it, where I wanted it to go, where I wanted his features to go. It was just sort of balancing things out and getting the expression that he has on his face right. And once I got that right, I was able to go into what you can see on the screen now, the inking phase. Inks wise, what I tend to do is I get all of the details that aren't too small and aren't too fiddly down first. As I've said in previous videos, I do a slightly thicker, darker line around the edge that's being hit by the light the least, and then a lighter, thinner line around the areas that are being hit by light. I also use a considerably lighter line on the inside of the drawing, so things like facial feature details and the line of his collarbone and wrinkles in clothing. As you saw as well, I do erase, once I've got all of the base details down, I erase the sketch, and then I work in with the really thin pen to get the little details like the curls in the hair and a lot of the creases on his shirt. I just find that easier, and it means that these lines aren't likely to get rubbed away a little bit by the eraser. I will also do a inking technique that is basically the line gets a little bit thicker in corners where other lines are meeting. This just helps things to look a little bit more 3D, and it tends to draw a little bit of that section back so it looks further away and like it's almost in shadow. Once I've finished my ink work, you'll notice that I haven't inked the background. I'm actually, like with a few of the watercolour illustrations, experimenting with doing the background line art entirely in pencil and watercolour and not actually having a intense line on most of the background. It means that the character in the front pops out a little bit more and the background kind of looks softer and more natural. Now going in with the watercolour, I do a flat wash of his skin tone first of all. I have a very light version of his skin tone here, and then I do another wash directly on top of that. He has a warm red skin tone that is cooled off a little bit with his shading, which I tend to shade him with a little bit of a soft purple. This gives him a more natural looking red skin tone. It also gives that kind of cooled off effect on that bright red, because ideally you do not want him to be neon in comparison to the other characters like the humans. As you can see, what I do here is I do tend to paint the entirety of the skin tone except the really dark sections, and then I'll do a wash of the entirety of the background. The background is literally just like a gentle wash of the different greens and greys and a little bit of yellows that come into the background. And then after that I will start to brighten up some of those colours. When brightening the colours, I'm just using another layer of the same colour. Sometimes I'll add a little bit more yellow or a little bit more blue just to brighten it up a little bit. And I'm leaving gaps here as well for the flowers that I'm going to work into this background. Baetor has a history with one of the other characters, the one that was in my most recent speed paint, which is Shrike. So a lot of his visuals will have to reflect things to do with Shrike's illustration, so I tried to keep it nice and subtle and just have these like soft roses in the top of the illustration. I didn't want it to be too overt and in your face. I also have these stoneworks in the bottom, which are for the path that he's standing on, and I also worked into it with a little bit of a tree in the background. Just a very soft hint of a background. Then I go into the shading on everything else, and as you can see, it's very fast and loose shading, very easy. I don't want to go into it too much because I have done that in all of the previous ones, but yeah, my shading is just sort of gentle and soft and tends to be a slightly cooler colour of the colour that I've already used, or I'll use a completely different colour like purple or blue to make that shading a little bit pop. If you do want to ask anything else about the shading, please do let me know in the comments. I am by no means a watercolour expert, but I do know a few things that I hope I could pass on to people to help them learn how to do watercolour a little bit easier. Then I take my pencils and I'm just outlining a couple of the roses, a couple of the leaves in the vine section, and a couple of these little blossom flowers, the purple ones, just the edges of the bushes, just basically making the things that need to pop, and the things that shouldn't really be standing out, I'm just leaving them completely unlined so that they're just like this soft background hint in the background. Again, just really gentle, not working too much into it, defining little flowers and little details, but definitely not going too hard on any line art in any areas. The reason for this coloured line art is of course just to make everything not stand out as much as the front. So if you press down too hard, you're just going to draw too much attention to those items. And there you have it, that is my watercolour portrait of Baetor from my webtoon, I Am a Criminal. Now I hope you guys will like it. Baetor is probably one of my favourite characters from the webtoon. I think he's very popular with a lot of people who read it on there. A lot of people very much like his character design, so I hope you guys will like it too. Please remember to go and read my webtoon. It is on Webtoon itself, and yeah, just have a little look. It's really fun, and it'll be in the description down below if you just want to click through. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, please remember to be creepy.